Steel Ball Run's anime debut ran victory laps when it dropped. Get it? Seriously though, it was perfect and my brain couldn't even process that it was real and on my TV screen. So I just wanted to check in and blab about it, because this is a generational anime drop. So let's talk about what my thoughts are, what was cut from the manga, and where do we go from here, because it's looking like there are some issues with the release of the next episodes, but I'll touch on that later. First things first, they nailed everything about the first stage here. JoJo has never looked this good before in anime. While part 6 was sadly hit by the effects of the pandemic, David production came back full swing. It looks like it was ripped straight from the manga. The color palette fits the Western theming, the CGI blends really well, and the horses are dominantly 2D drawn. Hearing Johnny and Gyro's official voices was great too. They nailed their roles, and it was cool to see that the actors were mega fans of Steel Ball Run. And apparently they barely had to be directed by the casting coach. This first episode covers the whole first stage of the race in a 50-minute premiere. Steel Ball Run opens on a character named Sandman. For the anime onlys, I'll explain what was cut without spoiling, so don't worry. The manga also opens with him, but the manga goes on for a bit, giving a whole backstory for Sandman, and it takes a while before Johnny and Gyro are even introduced. It was a bold play by Araki, but I think it works for the format, and it makes sense given the fact that Native Americans were here first, so he's the first character to be introduced, and it plays into his kind of motives for this race. But I won't go any further than that. I don't want to talk about it because I don't believe it'll be fully cut. Sandman is a very important character, and he has an arc later down in the story that I think they'll put the backstory in for there. If you're watching Fire Force currently, you know that David Productions likes to change story beats around to better fit the format of the show. So yeah, look out for that later. After that, everything goes pretty much bar for bar. Gyro's presence was so well done, and demoing the steel balls led a lot of anime onlys to be entranced as much as Johnny was to learn more about it. Now don't worry, this isn't a whole new power system to replace stands. This isn't much of a spoiler, but stands are in part 7 as well. But the power of spin with the steel balls are another component to combat that you'll see as a connection to Hamon. If you don't know, part 7 is a very soft spiritual connection to part 1, with Johnny being related to Jonathan, obviously, and Gyro being related to Will Zeppeli. You could also see some more references like Avdol and Enya from part 3 being in Steel Ball Run as well in this first episode here. But going back to introductions, we get to see Steven Steele, the host of the race. He's a pivotal character to the whole thing. I mean, he funds it all, and a lot of the fun of the Steel Ball Run race is to figure out why he's even hosting it to begin with. We then get to see a press conference with Steven, but this is sadly the biggest cut from the manga that I think takes a little too much info and characterization out. For the anime onlys, basically what you need to know is that Steven is questioned about the race. He goes over the rules, which is explained in the anime, just in a different scene. But he also gets questioned about his wife Lucy. A Run reporter asks about her age. It isn't explicitly said in the anime, but she is 14 years old, which at this point obviously will make people be taken aback by Steven because gross. But trust, it is a very pivotal part of the story as Steven and Lucy become very vital, and it just kind of sucks that they didn't have much screen time in this first episode, but either way, Steven crying to Lucy was so peak, and his voice actor sounds exactly how I read his voice in my mind. Jumping around a bit now, I want to talk about some more weird censorship in the anime here. Now, JoJo is known for its censorship with some of the gore and the action, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Like the unsavory subject of Lucy's age being redacted, which I hope wasn't intentional because it is important to the story, but there's also another grungy subject that was omitted from the anime. In the scene of Poco Loco talking with his grandpa, it is clearly stated in the manga that they were previously slaves before being freed out of slavery, which is another huge characterization trait that had no excuse to be taken out. Steel Ball Run talks a lot about these uncomfortable issues of this time period, and all plays into every rider's reason for entering this race. So to make Poco Loco look like just a lucky fool was a little disingenuous to his character. But either way, I think they nailed the way he acts in this whole entire first stage of the race. And it's odd that they do this because they do highlight in the very beginning other important aspects, like when Sandman is criticized from his own tribe for using techniques from the white man and being ridiculed for associating with them. And we also get to see Johnny exploited when he is hospitalized after getting shot and paralyzed, which was really hard to watch. I think they really nailed that scene. Also, quick side rant, the amount of people that mischaracterized Johnny here saying that he deserved to have gotten shot for acting arrogant and cutting a line is just insane to me. The dude's brother passed away, and he has to fill in these shoes of being one of the best horseback riders and try to live up to his brother's legacy. Also, for reasons I won't spoil, you'll understand why Johnny started spiraling after his brother's death. Anyways, yap. What else is there to talk about? Music. music just slaps. They did it yet again. The main theme is so catchy. I don't think I'll ever get sick of it. There was also so many different renditions of the song used in just that first episode alone. Also, Dio's theme having a different version for Diego was very cool and unexpected. The race itself was just so fun and intense, and I was just smiling the whole time. For not having any stands or fighting in this first race, they nailed what made the race in the first stage so fun and engaging. All the characters and their horse riding styles are on full display. Gyro beefing with Diego and Pocoloco is hilarious. And one final cut/change in the anime is the fact that we do actually see a stand in this first stage in the manga, but in the anime it's kind of omitted. Admittedly, it's just a glimpse in the manga, but in the anime we get to hear Pocoloco's stand for a brief second, but we do get to see its design in the manga version, which I'm sure will be in the next episode soon to come. Basically, his stand was the reason he knew about the cow carcass to help him slide down the hill. Either way, I think it's actually funnier in the anime version because as he falls down, he just happens to fall into the cow carcass and slide down instead of deliberately seeking it out. The race wraps up and we get to see the coolest shot in the whole episode of time slowing down, the music cutting out, and a camera flash impact frame of Gyro crossing the finish line. It was beyond hype and sick, and me and my roommate were just screaming the whole time. I can't stress enough how fun of a watch that this whole thing even was. Even though I read it, I still got swept up in the emotions of everything. I promise you guys, this is the best part for a reason. It's not just a bunch of storytelling through fights and all that. You know, the race is a means to progress the plot and the narratives, and outside of the action-packed races, we get to see actual fights in between the stages and the different checkpoint rests. All I'm gonna say is just savor it and you're in for a ride with Johnny and Gyro. A few more things I just wanted to touch on is I actually really like the way that they design the horses. They have so much personality. Every horse reflects its rider, and I think they conveyed that perfectly with the color schemes, like the leashes, the way that their hairs are done, obviously the color schemes of the horses and their fur. It's just really well done. Another thing is I thought I would get used to Johnny's new color scheme in the anime, but I didn't realize how much I actually just cared for the baby blue version with the stars. Usually when they change a character's color scheme in JoJo, very easy for me to adjust and I don't really mind that much, but the white version of Johnny just looks kind of odd to me. And one other thing that they cut, which I think is actually a good cut, is the Steel Ball Run trophy. In the manga, they briefly touch upon this frozen trophy in this giant block of ice as like a winning prize for if you win the whole thing. That just gets forgotten about in the manga. I think Araki just straight up forgot that that was a thing. So obviously they're just going to cut that out of the anime because it doesn't show up again later. Now sadly, there is one thing I got to touch on before I end this video. And if you don't know, there's been some news from the director that there isn't a known date for the next episode, meaning the show isn't airing weekly and that production is still ongoing. This honestly sucks, but I'll take this over a rushed product any day. I hope the show doesn't go toward batches or one stage at a time releases. The quality of this first episode was bar none the best JoJo has ever looked. I'm afraid this will be released over such a strained period of time. Anyways, let's just keep our heads up because the show is here. There's something we can talk about now, and yeah, that's something. I hope all the anime onlys can avoid spoilers because man, this part is probably gonna get spoiled a lot, and there's some insane twists and revelations. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about, so have a good one and I'll see you later.